Hello and welcome to this how-to video on how to install and configure ESXi Server 5.1. If you haven't done so already, download the bootable ISO from VMware.com and burn to a CD. So, when you first boot the CD, you will see a screen that looks very similar to the one that I have here. This should automatically boot the installer, but if it doesn't, ensure the ESXi 5.1 standard installer is selected and press enter. The installer will then load the required files that it requires to install ESXi Server. While it's going through this process, you may want to find yourselves a static IP address. For this tutorial, I will be using a 10.0.0.2 IP address as my default IP address for the server, and I will be using a default gateway of 10.0.0.1. I would recommend that you do have this on a static IP address, as a DHCP assigned IP address may cause you problems with accessing your server, especially if it decides to change its IP address without telling you. Okay, now that the installer is loaded, press enter to get started. Read through your license agreement and press F11. The system will now look for all your compatible hardware. Select the hard drive that you would like to install ESXi on. I only have one hard drive available on here because I've only have one hard drive in this server of 250 gig, but that doesn't matter. ESXi has a very small footprint and you can use the rest of the drive anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and select that drive. On this screen, select your keyboard type. Now mine's United Kingdom. So for your password, this password's for your root account, so for your system administrator. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use password. You'll now just scan your system just to make sure that all hardware is compatible. At this point you can choose to go back if you want to make a change to any of the very few settings we've just done, or press F11 to install. This process takes 5 to 10 minutes depending on the speed of your system. I will actually skip forward through this part so you don't have to watch the little progress bar go from 16% to 100%. Okay, now that it's installed, remove the CD and press Enter to reboot. Okay, as you can see now, we've got our server home screen. It has an IP address of 0000. That's no use particularly to us, so I'm going to log in by pressing the F2 button, typing in the user root if it's not already there, and then typing in the password that we set earlier. In my case, the password's password. Right, now to configure the networking, we go down to Configure Management Network, go down to IP Configuration, and then press spacebar next to Set Static IP Address and Network Configuration. Delete zeros and put in our desired IP address, along with our desired subnet. Again, for this demo, I'm using 10.0.0.2 for my IP address and a subnet of 255.0.0.0 and a default gateway of 10.0.0.1. We then need to configure DNS settings. For this, I'm going to use 10.0.0.1 and I'm going to call this VMH1. I could configure VLANing here, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I don't need to. Press Escape to go back. Need to restart our network configuration, network services, and we do that by pressing yes or the Y key, and we can now see that our host name is now changed to VMH1 and our IP address is 10.0.0.2. If we press escape again, we can now see that we can access our host at the IP address of 10.0.0.2 or at using its hostname of VMH1, or using its MAC address provided at the bottom. That's all that you need to do on the ESXi server for its basic configuration. You now need to go to a computer that is connected to the same network. Okay guys, so now here on our Tiki machine, if we open Internet Explorer or a browser of your favourite choice and go to 10.0.0.2, wait a little bit and click continue, and then click on this download link here. We can download the VMWare client. Now this station and the ESXi server that I've just created are not currently connected to the internet. So I have already downloaded the client from VMware's website and copied it to the station. So if we click yes, now this is a very straightforward install, but I thought I'd include it in the how-to. Select your language. Unfortunately, there is no English International or English UK, so we've got to go with the English United States. And then click next, and next again. Accept the terms of the license agreement. Select the install folder. We're going to go with default here. Click next and click next again. It will now install the required files to run the VMWare client. And once this is installed, we'll be able to connect to our VMWare ESXi server. And we can finish the installer. Now if we come over to the VMWare VMWare client and double click. Here we'll be asked to enter our IP address, so 10.0.0.2, root, as that's the only user that currently exists, and our password. I'm going to install the certificate because I'm not going to replace it, and I'm going to continue to ignore it. And yes, I haven't entered license key yet, but we will do that later. So, if we click on inventory, we can see our ESXi host here. It has no virtual machines, which will show up here. If we come across to configuration and go into storage, we can see our data store 1. If we right click it, click Browse Data Store, we can see all the data that's stored from this data store. Currently there's nothing, but in my next video on how to create a VM within ESXi 5.1, I will show you how to upload ISO files and how to connect them to machines. So I hope you have enjoyed this relatively quick tutorial on how to use how to install ESXi Server 5.1, and please feel free to ask for any additional videos that you would like to see, any particular operating systems you'd like to see installed, or another thing that I'm going to be doing in the future will be VMware vCenter or vCenter Manager, and creating data center clusters. Thank you for watching.